Anne Dickinson finally talks about Robert Redford when she is 93 years old. It was in Colum, North Dakota, on September 30th, 1931, that Angie Dickinson was born as Angeline Brown. Rose went from being poor in a small town in the Midwest to becoming one of the most beautiful and versatile starring ladies in Hollywood. In her early years, she wasn't in the public eye. Their names were Frederica and Leo Henry Brown, and they were from Germany. Angie learned to work hard and be determined as a child during the Great Depression. These traits would later define her long and successful career. She went to Immaculate Heart College and then Glendale College after moving to Burbank, California with her family. Her beauty, charm, and intelligence helped her stand out there. Her first dreams were to be a writer or work behind the scenes, but fate led her to the theater business. When she competed in a beauty pageant in the early 1950s and caught the eye of casting directors, she became an actress almost by accident. She quickly got small parts in TV shows and movies thanks to her beautiful looks, smoky voice, and magnetic screen presence. In her early years, Angie worked hard to get parts in famous westerns and anthology TV shows. She worked with some of Hollywood's biggest stars by the middle of the 1950s, which gave her experience and confidence. In Howard Hawks's Western classic Rio Bravo, 1959, she got her big break. She played a part opposite John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Ricky Nelson. Angie became famous when she played Feathers, a tough but sweet bar girl. This role showed that she could hold her own against some of the biggest male stars of the time. Angie Dickinson was one of the most sought-after actors in Hollywood in the 1960s. She was naturally good at switching between types of movies. She was in westerns, crime plays, thrillers, and glitzy romances. People said that her performances had a lot of depth because she was able to mix elegance with emotional openness. Ocean's 11, 1960, with Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack, was one of her most famous roles. She also appeared in a number of high-profile thrillers and plays that showed how she could bring sophistication and strength to the screen. Angie was a movie star, but she was also a fashion icon in Hollywood. She was on magazine covers and at red carpet events, which cemented her standing as both a star and a fashion icon. Dickinson was at the top of her game in the 1960s and 1970s. She was in a lot of movies and TV shows and worked with some of the biggest stars of the time. She was in movies like Ocean's 11, 1960, with Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack, which exposed her to a whole new audience and made her known as both glamorous and able to hold her own in Hollywood's upper class. She also had important parts in The Killers, 1964, Point Blank, 1967, and Big Bad Mama, 1974. In these movies, she showed a brave and adventurous side by not being afraid to play roles that were unusual for women in movies at the time. Because she was so versatile, she could easily go from westerns to crime plays to comedies while still having her own style on screen. In the 1970s, she gained a new level in her career when she played the groundbreaking Sergeant Suzanne Pepper Anderson on the hit TV show Policewoman, 1974-1978. At the time, this part was groundbreaking because it put a woman in a role that had usually been played by men in police dramas. People really connected with Angie's performance as Pepper because she was both beautiful and tough, smart and brave at the same time. Not only did the show get her good reviews, but it also paved the way for more female-led TV shows in the years that followed. Dickinson won and was nominated for Golden Globes for her performance. Many women looked up to her and respected her strength and independence. Even after Policewoman, Angie kept working steadily in movies and TV shows, showing how long she could stay in a business that usually favored younger stars. She was in well-reviewed movies like Brian Dielma's Dress to Kill, 1980, where she played a lonely housewife and showed how good she was at drama and making complicated characters seem vulnerable. During the 1980s and 1990s, she kept working in movies and on TV, often choosing parts that were hard for her, and showed how she had grown as an actress and as a person. And just like her work life, Angie Dickinson's domestic life was full of both successes and setbacks that made her the amazing woman she was. She married Gene Dickinson for the first time in 1952. At the time, Gene was a well-known and respected college football player for his speed, strength, and discipline, traits that exemplified the 1950s All-American ideal. Gene eventually left his job as an athlete and went into the electronics business, which was growing quickly in America after World War II. The pair was legally married until 1960, but they had already split up in 1956. Even though their relationship had problems, Angie's friendship with Gene was important to her, as she was getting used to life in Hollywood. It's interesting that she decided to keep his last name, Dickinson, even after they got divorced. It was the name she used throughout her career, and that made her famous all over the world. Not only did this decision show that she was committed to her work, it also set her apart in Hollywood, where keeping a famous name can have a big effect on how long your career lasts. During the years that Angie was married to Gene Dickinson, she also became close friends with a number of important people. The well-known businessman John Kenneth Galbraith and his wife Catherine were among them. Angie could see a side of life that was very different from Hollywood through the Galbraiths because they were part of a group of smart and polite people. As a result of their friendship, she got to have interesting talks about politics, global economics, and culture, which broadened her views and put her in touch with very smart and powerful people. When President John F. Kennedy made John Kenneth Galbraith ambassador to India, Angie went to see the Galbraith family abroad. Her trips to see them and the time she spent traveling with them while they were stationed in India had such an impact that Galbraith wrote about them in her memoirs, Ambassador's Journal, and A Life in Our Times. These references in his works show not only how close they were as friends, but also how important Angie was to the lives of important and well-known people outside of the entertainment business. It was a new start for Angie Dickinson's personal life when she married the famous composer and singer Burt Bacharach in 1965. Bacharach was already a huge name in the music business, well known for the complex rhythms he created and the groundbreaking ways he changed pop music. They were one of the sexiest pairs of the time because they were both famous in Hollywood and great at music. By Hollywood terms, they were married for 16 years, which is a long time, but it wasn't always easy. In the later years of their relationship, they were apart for a while each pursued other relationships. During this time, they stayed close and eventually got back together for a while. This showed how hard it is for two creative and ambitious people to balance their personal lives with their demanding jobs in the spotlight. They had their only child, a girl named Nikki, on July 12, 1966. This was a turning point in their marriage. Nikki had a lot of problems from a young age because she was diagnosed with autism at a time when it wasn't as well known or supported as it is now. Angie and Burt changed their lives and jobs to give Nikki the love and attention she needed. Even though they worked hard, Nikki had deep problems that would last her whole life. She tragically killed herself on January 4, 2007, when she was 40 years old. Her parents were devastated by her death, and Angie was forever changed because she had always spoken out for her daughter and worked hard to give her the best life possible, despite a lot of problems. Burt Bacharach had a very long and interesting life. He kept writing music, performing it, and having an impact on the world of music for many years after his marriage to Angie ended. He passed away in 2023 at the age of 94, ending a life through music that had touched many people. Angie Dickinson's marriages to Gene Dickinson and Burt Bacharach, as well as her job as a mother to Nikki, have been some of the most important parts of her life. There were chapters about love, friendship, sadness, strength, and how she dealt with both public and private problems with grace. At 93 years old, Angie Dickinson has seen the best and worst of Hollywood over the course of almost 100 years. And she finally talked about Robert Redford after his death, after keeping her feelings about him to herself for decades. Robert Redford was a famous actor, director, and founder of the Sundance Film Festival. He died peacefully in his sleep at his home in Sundance, Utah, on September 16, 2025. He was 89 years old. The news sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, making people think of his amazing career and the lasting impression he had on generations of fans. But for Angie Dickinson, the loss was very close to home in a way that not many people understood. Over the years, she and Redford had met many times, both as co-workers in the same business and as friends who looked up to each other from a respectful distance. When asked what she thought about Redford's death, Dickinson took a while to answer. Her voice was steady but heavy with emotion. "Robert was one of those rare men in Hollywood," she noted. "It was clear to everyone that he was very good-looking, and he was also honest, which isn't always easy to find in this town. He always stuck to his own plans and wouldn't let the companies or the press change who he was." For Dickinson, who had fought for meaningful parts in a field where women were often limited to stereotypes, Redford's independence and refusal to fit in made him stand out from many of their peers. She talked about how they met for the first time in the 1960s, when they were both on the rise to fame. "I remember seeing him when he was still this young, almost shy actor," he said. "Afterward, everyone would know him as Robert Redford. But he had that spark even back then. When he walked into a room, you could feel it. You knew he was going to do something big." At the time, Dickinson was already getting noticed for her work on TV and in movies, so Redford's modesty was a welcome change. She made it clear that he never acted cocky, even though he knew how much attention his good looks and charm got him. Dickinson didn't shy away from talking about the difficulties women face in Hollywood at the same time as guys like Redford. To be fair, she did say that it was difficult at times. Back then, Robert had chances that women didn't have. He was taken seriously in all of his roles, whether they were tough, romantic, or political. Things were different for women, and we had to fight harder for recognition. Robert did treat the women he worked with respect, though. He never thought of us as props. That's right. That really meant a lot. She also said nice things about Redford's work outside of acting, especially with the Sundance Institute and environmental issues. Robert did more than just make movies. His goal was to make the world a little better, giving so many young filmmakers a chance when the big studios wouldn't even open the door for them, Dickinson said. He helped young people get better, and that was just as much his impact as any movie he was in. In a soft voice, she added, "That generosity, that vision is something I'll always admire." When asked if she and Redford had ever been more than friends, Dickinson gave one of the half smiles she was known for. "That question comes up all the time," she laughed. "Robert was the kind of man that women loved, and I did too. But the truth is that we never got together. We had respect for each other. We liked being with each other, but it was never that. And that could be why our link stayed strong for so long. We never had anything bad going on between us." Still, Dickinson agreed that Redford had an undeniable charm that lasted his whole life. "I couldn't stay away from him because he was both boyish and strong," she thought. Even when he was older and had lines on his face from age, he still had that sparkle in his eyes. He could make you feel like you were the only person in the room, and that's a gift very few people have. The moment she talked about his death, Dickinson became quiet. Her words were soft but serious. "Even though it breaks my heart to think about him being gone, I take comfort in the fact that he died peacefully in the Sundance home he built himself. That was his safe place, and I think that's how he would have wanted it to be. I will miss him very much, but I'll also carry the lessons of his life with me," she said. "That you can be great and good, famous and private, and follow your dreams without forgetting where you came from." Robert Redford was more than just a Hollywood star to Angie Dickinson. She looked up to him as a friend and a person who lived by the kind of honesty she always valued. At age 93, she finished her speech with one last thought after thinking about all the memories and important events in her life. "Robert was the real deal. They no longer make them like him."